सिद्धाणम ओम नमो आयर्याणम ओम नमो उवज्जायनम नमो लोए सव्वसाहुनम ऐसो पंच नमस्कारो सव्वपवपणासनो मंगलाणम च सव्वे सिंह पद्मम अवै मंगलम।
सॉरी। सबों को सादर जय जिनेन्द्र। आज हमारे बीच में मिस्टर इंदरचंद जी दुधेरिया साहब मौजूद हैं और मैं उनका थोड़ा ब्रीफ परिचय दे देता हूं। He did his ME in production from BITS, Pilani in 1969 to 71. Then worked in various organizations, including international organizations for 18 years at various positions. Also worked as principal, head of mechanical engineering department, professor, associate professor, lecturer in MERC, Jaipur and BITS Pilani. He has been imparting scientific knowledge through short messages, article on Twitter, blog post, WhatsApp, and delivering lectures. Now he is planning to go on YouTube. Currently, he is engaged in writing a book on Bhagwan Mahavir. His topic today is the expansion that never was in the universe. So I invite Dr. Shri Indarchand ji Dudhedia Sahab. Please give your talk on this topic. Please, Dudhedia Sahab, please.
Thank you. करूं शुरुआत?
Yes, sir.
सभी को जय जिनेन्द्र. My topic for the day is the expansion that never was. Subtitle of this topic is Busting the Myth of Expanding Universe. Now, the basic idea that I am going to put forward is that the concept of Big Bang theory itself is having a big flaw. And currently, in fact, even in present decade, 2011 onwards, and 2021 onwards, a lot of papers are coming out. As far as I have read only summaries of some of them, most of them saying that the expanding universe is not a tenable idea. The presentation that I am going to make involves certain terms because while I was reading these various literature articles, I found that the words universe and world are interchangeably used, and that created a lot of confusion in me. And besides that, the Lokakash and Alokakash, there is no distinction between these two ideas in the scientific papers. Therefore, I decided that let me first explain the terms that I am going to use so that there is clarity in what I am trying to say and what you are able to understand from what I am trying to say. The words that are often used, one of them is.
सर आपका स्क्रीन शेयर नहीं किया है अभी जो
आ गया
बताए. हाँ.
The first word real, that is which comes actually in the form which actually means sat in our literature, is of course known to everyone, and because of this sat, the reality, that is the universe, that is satta, that is created, and it is also referred to as astitva, that is existence. The universe I am talking about is the universe which includes both Lokakash and Alokakash. Because basically the word universe itself signifies the existence as a whole, which means the Alokakash and Akash, uh, Alokakash and Lokakash, they are both included in the universe. Then the visible world, the liminal part of the universe, is what I am going to call as cosmos. The word cosmos means order. And we find that in this cosmos, the all physical and chemical laws hold true. And therefore, I venture to call it as an ordered entity because in second law of thermodynamics, it is differently referred. But for the present purpose, I am calling it ordered entity to distinguish it from the whole universe. It has all the 6 substances in it. That means it is referring to Lokakash. And the world that I am talking about, I'll be referring very rarely in this particular presentation. It contains the flora and fauna that we are familiar with, including those microorganisms. In another way, I am identifying the universe as a megacosm, which is the whole arrangement, a natural construct, a very vast expansion of the existence. Macrocosm is the organized system. So basically, it relates to the cosmos in my presentation. It includes the matter from galaxies to Paramanu, and from whale to bacterium, and from redwood to algae. In in microcosm, there is subtle subsystem that exists in this macrocosm, basically Parmanus and microorganisms, including Nigod. And singularity, the term that is from where this topic has been generated, is a point form compact of concentrated energy and mass. That is how I have understood it. Now I am going to put a question to myself and then going to answer it. Is the universe created? There are 3 theories that I am going to present here in concerning this universe, whether universe is created or not. Upanishad, possibly you all know that it has given a theory of creation of universe by God. But this particular theory suffers from what is called as regressus ad infinitum. It can never answer the various questions posed to whatever question they answer. Ultimately, somewhere we have to stop. And if there is no stop, then the problem or issue is not resolved. Surprisingly, the cosmology treating world creation from singularity is very similar to the Vedic creation of universe, except for the fact that Vedas or Upanishads invite God for creation, and cosmology invites, because they don't believe in God, they invite singularity as a physical entity. And prior to that, both these theories say there was nothing. And then God created that universe from the cosmic egg. And cosmologists also say that there was nothing, but there was a singularity. And this very statement creates confusion because it only means that something is created out of nothing. Bill Bryson has written a very interesting book, A Short History of Everything, and in which he refers to this particular singularity phenomenon and expansion of universe in the form of there is the universe, which is evident proof that you can create something out of nothing. To carry the idea forward, Greek philosopher Titus Carus, about 100 BC to 55 BC, he said that nothing can be created from nothing, which also means nothing can create something. And the third theory that I am going to put forward is about our Jainism for comparison purposes. And ultimately, I am going to come to a conclusion that what Jainism has stated, in fact, is the very sound theory of universal existence, universe existence. Edward Tryon of Columbia University stated that our universe is one of those things that happens from time to time, which I understand as a cyclical universe proposed by Jain Darshan. And Alan Guth, MIT professor, said that creation of universe might be very unlikely. Now, the next question I am going to ask myself is the space created? Upanishad, it says that when the God thought that he wants to have something for his entertainment because he was bored, so he decided to create something and he played with that cosmic egg. It expanded and caused the boom, which is known as the Om sound. And similarly, cosmologists say that that singularly expanded, and that expansion was a big explosion, which I consider that it might have created some sound, typically equivalent to the Om from the Upanishad. But it also means that the universe is created from a physical thing. The entire universe is created from the physical thing. And space is part of matter because space got created from the either the cosmic egg or the singularity expansion. Therefore, in my opinion, this first statement itself causes a problem in believing that the world is created. Jain Darshan says that the universe is causasui, that means self-caused. And the space is the first element or original substance of Sat, which is formed of the 6 original substances. And it is the real substance. It is called noumenon, a thing in itself. Space is not matter. It's a noumenon. Noumenon. It's noumenon. It's not matter. It's not phenomenon. As per Jain Darshan, as I understand it. It contains 6 elements in the form of pairs. In Alok Akash, the pair space and time exists. In my particular understanding, I have found that unless time is also in Alok Akash, there won't be any existence. And in some detail, I am going to explain it later. Akash or space is immotile element out of this pair. It stays where it is always. And time is a motile element, motile substance of the out of the 6 sat or realities. It keeps on moving, and that is why changes are possible. And together, the motile and immotile, these 2 substances, real substances, they define the existence of the universe. Otherwise, it won't be possible to define the existence and sustain the idea. And the cosmic space, that is the cosmos, includes all the 3 pairs. The motion and station pair, that is the gati and sthiti reals, which means dharma and adharma. Then location and transformation, that is what I refer to as motile and immotile pair. Location, that is accommodation, is provided by the space, which is immotile. And transformation, that is causing change. That change is caused because of the assistance or catalytic action of time, which is a motile substance. And finally, sentient and insentient pair, that is soul and pudgal, atma and pudgal, chetan and achetan. So the first question I have answered is that, well, space is not created, it is causa sui, it exists on its own. The second question I am asking myself is the time created? Upanishad says that yes, time is created after the cosmic egg broke. Now, if it is so, where did God exist? And if the God has a longevity of in terms of his life, how that is known before the time was created? So again, this creates a problem in accepting that idea that time is created. So much so that cosmology also says, in parallel with the Upanishad idea, that when Big Bang happened, space and time were created together. And obviously, when something is created, as an antithesis of this, it has to be destroyed. And therefore, this created universe will vanish after some time and cause on the day called doomsday. Today, the thinking is now moving from Big Bang to cyclic theory of universe. Henry Bergson stated that changes in universe are absolutely impossible without time. Time must exist before singularity expanded. Arthur Eddington, who was a contemporary scientist of Einstein, he called the time as an arrow of movement or arrow of time. And he stated that being non-dimensional, that is simply a point, time cannot be caused to bend. And therefore, it travels in a straight line continuously. And Jain Darshan states that the time is an internal substance, the real, the Sat. It is the second original substance after the first original substance, that is the space, the sky, or Akash. It is also a nomenon. It is neither created, it is not created. It is also causa sui. It exists on its own since time without beginning and shall continue to exist until times without end. That is called the absolute time, de jure time, or a substantial cause for existence and changes in the universe. And therefore, it is immeasurable. Whereas there is an apparent time de facto which is measured in the universe. We all are familiar with this de facto or apparent time, and that is called as the Vyavhara time in Jain Darshan. It is measurable. This is the upper diagram explains the concept idea of Mr. Arthur Eddington, and the combined with the cyclic movement of the Jain universe. Absolute time represented as an arrow and cycle represented as a circle, which is represented by Utsarpini and Avsarpini. Next. Now I am going to ask another question to myself. Is the time finite or infinite? Now, Big Bang calls it, Big Bang says that it is finite because it says that it was created when the universe was created, and when the universe will go away, it will also go away, which means it is finite. It begins, it has end. Einstein also said that the time is finite, but then possibly he came across some difficulties in explaining the things, and therefore he thought of cylindrical world which was open in both ends, and thereby he said that time is infinite because cylinder is open at both ends, and therefore time travels through it continuously without any beginning or without any end. Richard Hughes calls that time is absolute and it has no beginning, or it is not going to end at all. The time dimension his statement is something like this: the time dimension can't come around full circle as we imagine Einstein's space to do. By going far into the future, we shall never meet the past. Therefore, Eddington's idea is matching with this time's arrow. Yet, it is not necessary to imagine that the time either had a beginning or must have an end. Arthur Eddington also tried to put it in words. The Einstein's world is closed in its warped space dimension, like sphere, which has no ends, like cylinder, and thus it is not open in the time dimension. Time has no beginning in the before and no ending in the after. The next question I am going to ask myself is time and space a single entity or twin of space and time? Upanishad says they are not necessarily conjoined, in conjoined form. They are separate because even before time was created, as per their statement, after the cosmic egg expanded, space was already there because there is the abode of God in that particular zone. Cosmology has different views to offer. For example, Newton said that these two are separate entities. Einstein defined space-time as a four-dimensional universe. Time and space are mixed up in a rather strange way because of that warping effect that he considered for creation of the universe. But then, because in cylindrical world, which he also identified, he defines time as an infinite entity, and he doesn't define space as an infinite entity. So there is a contradiction in his own statements. And finally, Jain Darshan, it says that the two are separate, contrasting entities forming a pair, as I explained, motile and immotile, or accommodating and causing change. As I mentioned earlier, Lokakash has all the six substances, and Alokakash has both these substances, space and time. Next, I am going to put another question. Is the statement below true or real? And that statement is, where there is no matter, there is no time or space. Now, there are two words used here, true or real. In the question, these two words are used, true or real. I am going to define for convenience these two words in short as true is apparent, relative, and practical. So whatever we are able to see as phenomena, they are relative and therefore apparent and practical. Real, on the other hand, is absolute. It is independent and substantial. That is, it is a property of substance. And real substances are not phenomena, they are noumena. Therefore, let us examine in this light whether this statement is true or real. Cosmologist Dr. N.R. Sen stated that it is matter in which originate time and space. Now, this is directly from the Einstein's theory of, or Big Bang theory of creation of the universe. But then matter can't get created, matter can't create something contrary to its attributes, particularly because time in Jain darshan is considered, time and space both are considered real substances, and matter is a physical substance, which means it is phenomenon and it can have shape and size and etc. And therefore, these attributes are not possessed by time and space, and as such, there is contradiction or opposite views between the Big Bang proponents and Jain Darshan proponents. Space and time can't be converted into time or space. Time will remain time. Sorry. Time will remain time and space will remain space. They are not convertible into each other because Sat remains Sat. Sat cannot take form of any other thing and it can never become Asat. No physical material, that means phenomenal material, can create metaphysical or nominal entity. Space and time being nominal entities cannot be created phenomenal or physical entity called matter. And therefore, above statement is neither true nor real. According to Jain Darshan, the space is the container in which the 5 other real sats also get accommodation. So therefore, 5 realities are the contents of this container, and cosmos is the subcontent of the whole universe. Is there space beyond the cosmos? This is another question that is very interesting. In cosmology, there is some confusion. Albert Einstein said, both time and space vanish into nothing if there be no matter. Now, if there is no matter, there is no space or time, which means universe is only space and time. Universe is only space and time in which the matter exists, which means it is only Lokakash of Jainism. Now, Charles and Chabod, a mathematician and physicist both, in his book Exploring the Universe, writes, they, that is mathematicians, do not conceive that there is a limit beyond which there is no space. Now, this is straight from the Big Bang theory. And Einstein makes a comment which is quite confusing as far as I am concerned. Space is finite, but it has no end. I have understood that a finite space must have an end. That is possibly because of the education that I got. And therefore, I could not understand this statement. Space is finite, but it has no end. Therefore, I am calling that there is some confusion. Jain Darshan says space is nominal, and therefore, being first amongst the 6 substances, it can be considered, particularly the Alokakash, can be considered as a pure mathematical space of scientists. Next. Now, one more question related to this Big Bang theory. Does space-time exist? And this is where a lot of confusion and is created, and therefore it gives birth to many questions. Cosmology is physical and phenomenal as per both Einstein and the Big Bang proponents. Whereas Isaac Newton said that time and space are independent realities. Albert Einstein made a very interesting and, as far as I am concerned, confusing statement that space and time are not absolute but relative to observer and the observed. That is physical thinking. That is how I understand it. Stephen Hawking, another great scientist, said time is physical. Of course, this was the statement he made in 1960. And later on in 1981, he revised the statement that I will mention later on. Stein Odenwald, another cosmologist, he says space and time are inseparable. He draws it straight from the Big Bang theory. He says space-time doesn't evolve, it simply is, it exists. According to Big Bang theory, space and time born at the instant the expansion of singularity took place. Now, that means space and time got created as a pair. Possibly, if I may call it, Siamese twin, inseparable, as Stein and Odenwald called it. But our intuition says time perhaps is not a physical entity. Well, apparent time is measured by the clocks that we have created, and that is practical time. Whereas when we are talking of space-time existence, I am referring to the absolute nature of time and space as defined by Jain Darshan. And that intuition, just as the intuition tells me that there is something within me, and then it is given a name as Atma or soul. Similarly, time is an entity. It is absolute, eternal, immutable, infinite entity. It is metaphysical and therefore real. Jain Darshan states now, very interestingly and probably most clearly, that time and space exist together severally, that means separately, not as twins, but independent noumenal entities. Cosmic space and non-cosmic space, these two components of universe, in both these components, time and space exist together as a pair, but not as inseparable entities. Both of them are independent in their property. One is motile, another is immotile. Now that brings me to a very fundamental question. Did singularity actually expand? Where did this Big Bang happen? That is the first question that comes to the answer, that Big Bang happened after because of the singularity. But then where did this happen? Because space also got created after that expansion. When was that? When was that expansion? When that expansion happened? Because time also was created according to Big Bang after the explosion. This question also remains unanswered. Why was it created? In Vedas, they say that it was God's need. Of course, they had to give some reason for creation of this world. So they identified an entity unquestionable entity. And then they said that it was purely on the basis of the mood of that particular entity called God, which thought of creation of that world. How was it? How did that got created? And then the explanation given is that there was an instability in that singularity. Why was that instability existent in the singularity? And then, well, the questions go on increasing, causing that regressus ad infinitum. If at all that instability was there, who caused that instability? Again, regressus ad infinitum. Singularity, a point form of compact energy, as I defined earlier, it has infinitesimally small dimension. It is infinitesimally small dimensionless speck, almost invisible. Location, where outside this point apparently there was nowhere for singularity to exist. And Bill Bryson in his book has put it very nicely. There was no around the singularity. Singularity is no part of space-time and can't be determined by where and when. That is another statement he has made in his book. It's a vessel. It's a container. When the singularity expanded, it did not fill the larger emptiness. This is a statement from Big Bang as well as Einstein's theory. Now, it did not fill the larger emptiness. It means they are imagining that there was something which was empty, void. So these two ideas clash with each other. But as per my understanding of Jain Darshan, space has been called as a container, and if at all anything like expansion happens, then it must have a container. A singularity must be contained in something. After all, singularity itself has worked as a vessel for that compact called mass energy in a very, very high density construct. Now, space and matter got created from the matter within singularity. Now, you see, if matter is creating space and matter and time as well, then it does not go well with the way the nominal and phenomenal universe works. Big Bang makes a statement. At the instant of expansion, the warping was infinite. This is very interesting. And a statement which can be greatly challenged. And this is what I am going to explain in some detail. A.C. Banerjee, one of the scientists engaged in teaching particle physics and long ago, and explaining even Einstein's theory to the students in university, he made a statement in one of the lectures: the more the matter, the smaller the universe must be. Now, immediately to my mind, the idea comes that the smallest universe existed as per the Big Bang proponents in the form of the singularity. If it existed in that fashion, why should it expand? Why wasn't it satisfied with that condition? Why did singularity expand? That question, as I mentioned earlier, remains unanswered. Well, Jainism satisfies this particular query by stating that, well, the most mathematical and logical scientific statement is the universe began without time, without beginning of time, and is going to continue until the eternal time. Now, this particular idea I'm going to explain with this lower diagram, diagram at the bottom. We know that the curvature is reciprocal of R. If R is 0, then curvature is infinite. And this condition is satisfied by singularity. And if this singularity satisfied that condition, then why should it expand? Because it is already stable there. And if at all something caused that instability, one must know what caused that instability. If R is infinite, then C is 0, curvature is 0. And according to the statement that I mentioned earlier, it means that when there is no matter, the curvature is infinite. And therefore, if that is so, it meets with the idea of pure space. So on one side, we have pure space. On another side, we have singularity. And in between, we have that cosmos. Next. Okay. Next question I'm going to ask myself is, was the basis of acceptance of BB theory, Big Bang theory, sound? The cosmologists tried to explain the idea that because of red shift, the universe is expanding is getting proved. Because scientifically they said that the change of wave frequency during relative motion between wave source and observer causes this redshift. And that redshift was observed. And that was explained in terms of the expansion of universe, continuous expansion of universe. But then James Jeans, long back, when this redshift phenomenon was being proposed as the explanation of universe, expansion of universe, he had already stated that even if you observe sunset and sunrise, you can see that red color. And therefore, that could be one of the reasons of redshift. Then, sometime in 1964, in Science Culture, one paper appeared and it stated that the gravitational field of galaxies might be the reason of the redshift. Later on, in 1972, there appeared an article in Science Reporter in which it was stated that when the quasar is studied, then if you try to explain redshift on the basis of the quasar research, then the emitter must move at speeds greater than 10 times speed of light. That is the conclusion that comes out of that research work on quasar, which means the physical laws of universe are getting violated, because Einstein has said that nothing can travel at speeds higher than c. And possibly it may be true in the cosmic space, but it is not true in the non-cosmic space, that is Alokakash. But Jain Darshan also states that the soul, along with its karmic and tejas bodies, travels at speeds much higher than the speed of light. And therefore, the Jain Darshan and Big Bang theory, they do not agree with each other. And even physicists and cosmologists have now come to conclusion that the very picture of the universe seems to need a revision. Beautifully, Jain thinkers have also explained this redshift through another phenomenon. When light wave travels, the photon particles are propagated. Photon is an 8-touch particle. It has mass. It is neutral. Its collision with another particle knocks off some paramanus, and thereby it becomes a stripped photon. And when a stripped photon actually, when the Parmanu is stripped, the photon contracts, its density increases, and therefore frequency decreases, wavelength increases, and therefore it causes red shift. As I mentioned, singularity was the most stable state for that compact, but then it has created universe, and again the question comes, is the universe expanding? Let us try to answer that question. Is the universe really expanding? The Big Bang created a lot of confusion for Mr. Einstein. He had thought over the idea because of his own research work that somehow this expanding universe idea doesn't apply. And therefore, he came out with a constant which was referred to as cosmological constant, which was accounting for, amongst others, even the dark energy and dark matter, according to his own concept. However, there came an evidence of this redshift we discussed earlier. And because of that, Mr. Einstein was quite confused. So much so that he thought that this evidence is powerful proof of expanding universe, and therefore he said he actually withdrew the cosmological constant idea, and he also made a comment amongst his circle that it was my blunder that I thought of cosmological constant. And surprisingly, in 2017, scientists have, after almost 100 years of Mr. Einstein's dilemma, they are now working on this cosmological constant, and they are saying that, well, it is very much necessary for the explanation of existence of this universe. Well, the basic idea of Big Bang that was given name by two other scientists, etc. That's besides the matter, not much of significance. But in 21st century, the steady state and cyclic universe are possibly combination of these two ideas. That is the idea behind the universe that they are now working on, doing a lot of research. And if that comes out to be true, then they will be only proving the statement by Jain Darshan, that is the universe is eternal and perpetual. Roger Penrose, who received his Nobel Prize in 2016, has come out with conformal cyclic cosmology, which is something of a cyclic universe theory type. And at present, it is considered to be the best bet for proving the universal theory of universe. Next. Now I come to the conclusions. Physical laws are all broken by this, most of this I have mentioned earlier in brief. Creation from nothing, as Titus Carus mentioned. Expansion in nothing, there was nowhere to expand in. Expansion in no time, changes are absolutely impossible without time, as Bergson said, and therefore it is breaking, the Big Bang theory is breaking the physical law. Then Gerald Gabriels made a statement, Big Bang is the most serious problem because the laws of physics appear to break down there. It's the most comprehensive statement that he has made. Where there is no matter, there is neither time nor space. This is another statement that is made. And if there is no matter, and then there is no time and space, but Jainism says that supposing, this is my interpretation, supposing the cosmos doesn't exist, even then the space will exist. And that is the statement made by some scientists in the various articles that I read. Now, second point that I will argue in conclusion is phenomena, space and time, they are considered physical. Now, because I read somewhere in one of the papers, yes, the book is written by Philip Goff. The title of the book is Galileo's Error. And in that book, the definition of science given by Galileo is that the science should deal with only physical matters, which means it's limited the definition of science to phenomenal things, and therefore the nominal things got excluded. No surprise that there is very little work done compared to the work in the phenomenal arena by the scientists. Next point that I would like to discuss is matter is responsible for curvature. If matter is responsible for curvature, and after this explosion, whatever was created, that something created was itself started warping upon itself, which means it tried to create a boundary. Whereas it was existing in already a definite stable boundary. Why did it have that expansion caused? And if it got expanded, then why it tried to close it into a certain boundary? That is another question that crops up. And now, when this boundary is completed, why should it expand? That is another question that comes to my mind. If warping is creating stability, and expansion is creating, or expansion is created by instability, how can the two things go on simultaneously? That was the question that came to my mind. Then redshift, as I explained earlier, there are several explanations of this which can be considered for coming to the conclusion that I am going to draw. Einstein's dilemma, there is another research observation that has come lately. Hubble constant calculated by Big Bang method came out to be 67.4. And by new method in 1998, it came out to be 73.9. And this required that the emitters must travel at speeds 10 times the speed of light, which of course is violating that I mentioned. Then Big Bang theory considers only the 4% luminous matter. 96% of the rest of the universe is out of its purview. 73% dark matter and 23% dark energy of the universe, they are left out from this scientific consideration. Then scientific proof. James Peebles, the Nobel laureate of 2019 and still going strong at 87, he made a statement: there is no concrete evidence for that giant explosion, and the confirmation for inflation theory is very sparse. Then, doom is predicted in Big Bang theory. It is untenable as per my understanding and as per the Jain Darshan proposition. But come to think of it, I thought that it may be considered applicable only to the solar system, because when the sun will die out, obviously the current solar system will die out. But by that time, another solar system will be generated in the same universe, which idea has been explored earlier by many scientists, calling it multiverse universe. And finally, the universe has a constant volume. Even Einstein said the number of atoms in the universe is constant, and therefore the volume should remain constant. That is what I thought. Maybe I'm not able to think deeper in this, but it is certain that as per Jain Darshan, the volume of universe is 343, and the 343 is of only the cosmic, which corresponds to the Lokakash of Jain Darshan, and the universe that the physical world or the cosmological world are referring to. Next. The current thinking, I will read this quickly because it seems I have encroached into the time not allotted to me. No beginning for the universe. That was the statement made long back by Aristotle, some 200 years after Mahavir. There is no beginning nor end to time. That is the statement Stephen Hawking made in 1981. In 1960, he had made exactly opposite statement. It only means that there is a lot of confusion amongst the greatest scientists of that time. It was just not possible. Next, it was just not possible quantum mechanically for the universe to start in the way Hertel-Hawking proposition imagined, by inflation of singularity, of course. This is the statement made by Neil Toruk, another leading cosmologist. He made this statement in 2017. Then Paul Steinhardt also made a statement. Inflation theory does not look at it was intended to. It does not explain why the universe exists. One of the questions I referred to was why the universe was created. He made this statement in 2020. Creation of universe may be very unlikely. As I mentioned this statement earlier, Alan Guth. And finally, the last statement made in 2020 again by James Peebles. He is also a Nobel laureate of 2019. There is no concrete evidence for that giant explosion. The confirmation for inflation method is very sparse. That, of course, I have mentioned earlier also. Thank you for your patient hearing.
Thank
If
you
there are
very much,
any...
sir. Yes, you have given a very comprehensive view on this, how the expansion is taking place or not taking place, in modern context and religious context as well. It is really a very complex question. You are trying to compile all these things. Thank you very much. Now,
Thank you.
audience, any question?